I wish you brought someone as pretty as me, like an actress or a reporter. It's embarrassing that it's a plain piggy like you. I was astonished when my mother-in-law said that to me with a grin when I came to greet her at my wedding. How could she make fun of someone she had almost never met before? I envy you. You're obese and weigh 180 pounds? I wish you could share the weight with me. My in-law scoffed at my body shape. My patience was being squeezed to the brink of breaking under the condescending stares. I'm Courtney, 31 years old. My parents run a farm in the countryside, and they always told me to eat a lot, and I have always taken that seriously. And I found myself becoming the chubby girl that everyone recognizes. I once tried dieting, but I could not restrict my diet. I couldn't stand to see food that farmers like my parents would have carefully produced thrown away at the hands of girls who were much thinner than I was. I can't change the way I live, but I can't like myself as I am. In order to come to terms with my inadequate self, I took a leap of faith and decided to get the job I have now. 3 years later, when I was getting support from other women who were also struggling with the same issues, I began to accept myself. Soon after, I met Scott through work, and we became friends, and soon started dating. However, after we had been lovers for a while, I had to go abroad for work. My boyfriend Scott and I were in a long-distance relationship for about 5 years. During that time, we were on the verge of breaking up several times, but each time we talked it out, and we overcame the difficulties by discussing and reconciling our feelings. Soon after I returned to the US after finishing work, he proposed to me. Of course I said yes. I was happy, and my work and private life were smooth sailing. First, we went to my parents' house to report our marriage and received generous hospitality from them. 2 weeks later, we went to his parents' house to say hello. He seems very uncomfortable even though it was his parents' house. I knew from what I had heard that their relationship was not good, and they were almost insulated. His family is a family of people in the entertaining industry. He also told me that he is an outcast there. On the way to his parents' house, he was dressed in a suit and told me about his family, which he had never actively talked about before. His father, Robert, is a comedian who used to be a dominant figure in his generation. His mother, Chloe, used to be a model and was charismatic among middle and high school girls. His sister, Ellen, is a new singer.
My parents are from the past, but they think they are still at the forefront. And I'm treated like a failure because I didn't become an entertainer.
Sure, you're not a celebrity, but as a behind-the-scenes person, you're amazing. You're not a failure. He laughed at my unintentional words.
You're more amazing than me. I can't say it openly yet though. Here we are.
I was stunned to see my in-law's house that he brought me to. The white Western-style house surrounded by a fence with roses in bloom in places. It was like entering a fairy tale world. It stood out from the rest of the neighborhood. This is your parents' house?
I heard that my father built it according to my mother's taste.
He told me this without hesitation and walked on with an unflattering look on his face.
Hello, welcome.
The man who opened the front door was my father-in-law with a cheerful look on his face. He was the comedian I used to see on TV. He was Sunrise Robert, whose orange full-body suit was a feature of the show back then. But I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw him. He was wearing a jacket covered in sequins and a big booty that looked as big as his face. But the bottom half of his body was not covered in sequins, but in a threadbare jersey and bare feet.
Dad, I told you I'd be bringing my fiancée today, didn't I?
I was startled by his sharp voice.
Oh, sorry. I have to greet her.
Nice to meet you. I'm the woman dating your son.
I'm Sunrise Robert, the famous Rise and Sink guy. Of course you know who I am, don't you, young lady?
What? My father-in-law interrupted my greeting with a line that I had heard on TV many times before. He winked at me very poorly. That word, that attitude, his earlier words, he didn't seem to care at all. Plus, he called me young lady. I was taken aback by the things he said and did that I didn't think he would say or do to his son's fiancée.
You happen to be back for a while, and you still look as bitter as ever. Well, I don't want to stand around and talk, so come on in. Oh, you can't take pictures. It's a private space.
My father-in-law said, and went into the back of the room, his footsteps making a pitter-patter sound. Welcome to our lovely home. When I opened the door to the living room, I couldn't help but smile at the two women who were there. There they were, my mother-in-law dressed violently, and my sister-in-law dressed like a magical girl. Both of them are suddenly slender and beautiful, as they are both celebrities. My mother-in-law looked at least 10 years younger than she actually was. The sister-in-law had pigtails and was wearing a one-piece dress with a big gem at the neckline. I couldn't believe that she was in her late 20s. We didn't know what kind of girl you were going to bring, so we went all out. I look good, don't I? I smiled affectionately at my mother-in-law's words. Combined with my father-in-law's attire, I feel as if I've been mixed in with a Halloween party. Then, I feel the judging glances, as if I wasn't worthy of being there. I gently dropped my gaze and reassessed my outfit. The dress I had bought for the occasion was brand new and without a single wrinkle. Even my accessories were simple and elegant. My hair and makeup were done by my favorite hair salon. I straightened my back and smiled at her. My name is Courtney, and I'm dating Scott. Nice to meet you. As soon as I had finished the basic greetings, my sister-in-law took one look at the paper bag I had handed her. Is that candy? I knew that with a body type like that, your souvenirs must be food. What did you say? I have that kind of body type? Now, you and I need to talk, don't we? Please sit down. My mother-in-law said with an elegant laugh, as if nothing had happened. I sat down in the chair and made a creaking noise. I heard everyone except me and Scott let out a small gasp. My mother-in-law widened her eyes and asked, Oh my goodness! How many pounds are you? Even my husband wouldn't creak. You're not 160 pounds, are you? Can you tell me?
Hey, that's rude.
What? It doesn't matter what I ask. Besides, if I need to, I will have to get a sturdier chair.
You know what?
Scott, it's fine. It would be bad if I broke the chair. I weigh 180 pounds. 180 pounds? Wow, that's like twice my size. How can you get so big? Scott gave me one loud cough, and the family finally quieted down. He introduced me again, and we restarted our greetings. My name is Courtney. It's nice to meet you. My father-in-law laughed at me.
You guys are grown-ups. You don't need my permission to get married, do you?
I was about to burst out laughing in relief, regardless of my choice of words, when my father-in-law continued.
I'm sure you understand this. If you're going to marry that chubby plain girl, don't invite us to the wedding.
What? Yeah, don't you feel that it's rude to me, who gave birth to someone as good-looking as you, to marry someone like her? You started working at a TV station because you were longing for the glamorous world, weren't you? If you were going to work at a TV station, you might as well marry an announcer or an actress. If she were as beautiful as me, I would have welcomed her. It's embarrassing to be related to a country pig like her. Well,
If you really want to get married, then we will have nothing to do with it.
My in-laws nodded in agreement. We were appalled by my in-laws who rejected us as
Come on, you don't know anything. Have you no shame? She's...
He gulped down his words as I pulled his arm to calm him down.
She's actually the #1 female professional wrestler or something.
My mother-in-law and sister-in-law laughed out loud at my father-in-law's joking tone. Oh, really? But then again, her plump breasts and lower body are a bit of distraction, aren't they? My sister-in-law says this as she stares at me. My mother-in-law nodded in agreement and continued. I envy you. You're obese and weigh 180 pounds, and I want you to share your weight with me. Then you could give my slender figure a little more body. My mother-in-law pinched the flesh of my cheek. The fake nails dug in, and when I frowned, she gave me a look of obvious disapproval. What? I was only joking. You're such a rude girl to stare at me like that. Something snapped inside me. I understood how you all feel now, but let me ask you this. Would you rather have me or your family? I asked Scott in a quiet voice as I looked over at my in-laws, who were making fun of me and getting loud and excited. You, Courtney. He called my name in a whisper. I was ready for that one word. I slipped my hand gently into the bag that was in my hand and quietly asked the family, You told me to do what I wanted with my marriage, right? My father-in-law looked taken aback by the tone of my voice and laughed. As far as I can tell, you said that you don't consider us family or relatives. Can I take that as a declaration of insulation? So what? My mother-in-law beat down hysterically. I continued in a quiet voice. Understood. Then that's how we will take it from here on out. Thank you very much for today. We will leave you now. I stood up, bowed my head and left. We left the premises and got into the car. After taking a deep breath, I took his hand and bowed. I'm sorry for saying all that earlier. I will ask you again. Would you rather...
I want to marry you. I want you to be my family.
I smiled at his words, and we held each other's hand and started the car. Although he chose me over his family, I'm not that kind of person who can be satisfied with that and let his family's treatment of me slide. You know what? I told him what I was thinking. He seems hesitant for a moment, but then immediately said I could do whatever I wanted. I was going to confront that insane, self-centered family with reality. 6 months later, a message arrived on my husband's phone with a very polite text asking him to come to their house. The sender of the message was his family, whom he hadn't heard from. We could have ignored the message, but similar messages continued to arrive day after day. I should tell them about my plans for the future. We couldn't just leave it at that. We decided to head to my parents-in-law's house for the first time in 6 months. Finally, you're here. Why didn't you come right away? Oh, it's you. Long time no see. After opening the front door and yelling, my mother-in-law took one look at me. You must have thick nerves to really get married. You told me to do as I please. So not long after that, we got married. We contacted each other's parents about our marriage, but only my parents responded properly. So we decided to have a photo wedding after explaining the situation to my parents and relatives. Later, we held a casual wedding party, inviting only those who we both wanted to invite. My mother-in-law clearly looked irritated at my words.
We did tell you about it. You were the one who ignored it.
My husband retorted sharply, and my mother-in-law became silent. Please come in for now. I thought she was going to hysterically turn me away. In the living room, my sister-in-law and father-in-law were arguing about which of them was going to show the program.
You are still only looking out for yourselves, aren't you?
My husband muttered to himself, but it didn't seem to have reached the ears of the family. My mother-in-law called my father-in-law and sister-in-law, and sat them down in chairs side by side. I've called you here for something important. I just want to ask you to give us a little bit of money.
What are you talking about?
I only need a little bit. $1,000. No, $800. If you work for a company, you get paid every month, right? You need to help your family.
I can't afford it. I have plans.
Plans? We were going to Paris soon. It's for my job. Your work? Yes. Even if you're a little fat, it's easy to travel first class. At my words, the family members quieted down to a scene for a moment. Then, they started to laugh out loud. A country girl going overseas for work? You're going to lie like that because you don't want to help us out? I'm not lying. Besides, I'm not a farmer.
She's a plus-size model, an actress who works mainly overseas.
My mother-in-law and father-in-law opened their mouths. My sister-in-law rushed to her phone and started searching for information. Mom, look at this! Comparing me to the screen, my in-laws twisted their lips as if they couldn't believe what they were seeing. But you're a farmer's daughter. That's true, but I didn't take over the family business. 6 months ago, I still couldn't say it out loud, but now that it's open to the public, I guess it's okay. I took off the movie poster and took it out of my bag. No way! The three of them stared intensely at the poster. There I was, posing beside the main character, albeit with different makeup and hair, in a series of films by a Hollywood film director that everyone had heard of. I was a newcomer, but I had been chosen to be a key player in this film. Who cares if you're in a movie? My mom and dad have been in movies too. I've done a voiceover in an animated film or two. Yeah, that's right. Just because you've been in a movie directed by a famous director doesn't make you better than us. I smiled at my mother-in-law and sister-in-law, who were trying to get at me. You're right. I'm still a rookie, and I'm not well known. I was told I wouldn't be accepted unless I was good enough, so I didn't even get into my grandfather's production company. And I went on audition after audition, and that's how I got where I am today. Right? My in-laws smirked as if they won. Then all of a sudden, my father-in-law jumps up in a panic.
Wait a minute! Your grandfather's production?
He bit the bait. I suppressed the urge of smirk and replied with an annoying look on my face. Didn't I tell you? My parents are farmers, but my grandfather on my mother's side is the president of a Polaris Productions.
What?
My parents-in-law were speechless at my words. Yes, my grandfather is a powerful man in the entertainment industry, who is also known as the Don of the entertainment industry. He is known to many people in the industry, both young and experienced, and his words hold a lot of value. Polaris Production is also home to famous and popular actors and comedians with more than 10 shows under their belts. Even if you are not familiar with the industry, you may not be unaware of Polaris Productions. You can't be serious. The reason I haven't been getting any work lately is... What did you say about me? I didn't have time to get to know you all. All I told him was that I want to marry someone, and what kind of reaction I got from his family. My smile made the whole family turn pale. Of course it would. Even though they didn't know it, they judged and made fun of the granddaughter of a prominent figure in the entertainment industry based on appearance alone. That's almost the same as picking a fight with him. At the very least, they should have at least acknowledged their surroundings and look at the reality instead of just talking about themselves on a regular basis. If they had listened to me properly, none of this would have happened. Then my father-in-law looked at us, raised his eyebrows, and made a cat-pawing sound.
Hey, Courtney, say a few words to your grandfather for me, please. We are not getting any work, and if we don't do something about it, We are going to get shut out of the entertainment business. We are family, aren't we?
Yes, it's your fault we are in this mess. It's a family crisis, so you should be able to give us some money or some work. If you have a face abroad and in the entertainment business, I know you're new and your figure is not the best, but I will accept you as my big sister. The three of them were looking at me with flirtatious glances, and it was hard to say anything. My husband sighed and then spoke up.
We are going to Paris soon. We are moving there permanently. We just came here today to tell you that.
Really? Well, if you're moving, that means you have money, right? Then,
I married the girl you guys were insulting, didn't I?
I know. That's no reason not to help us. It is. You said at that time that if he married me, you would cut him off. I could see my in-laws gulp at my words. That was just a casual remark. I don't know how you felt about it, but I have the audio from that time. I even back it up. You can't just do that. I will sue you for invasion of privacy. If you want to sue me, go ahead. But at that time, in addition to the audio, I will also take pictures of the wounds you gave me when you pinched me with your fingernails. I will also provide you with a record of all the things that you did to me at the time. My husband looked at his mother, who was clinging to him, and said quietly,
I'm not a member of this family anymore either. I'm taking her last name. You have always said that I was a failure and a disgrace to our family. Now I no longer belong to this family, in name or in reality.
My mother-in-law slumped on the spot at my husband's self-mocking smile. Neither my father-in-law nor sister-in-law made a sound. We signaled with our eyes and stood up. Well, we will take our leave now. We then declared that we would erase all contact with my in-laws. Within a few months, we had started our life together in Paris. I later heard that my grandfather was not involved in any way in the family's job loss at that time. It seems that all three of them were well known in the industry for their bad attitude towards staff and junior staff. They were looked at with a white eye by those around them. The only job they had left was an appearance on a local TV program that aired a 5-minute segment on weekdays about a family living in the countryside. The family that had mocked me so much as a country bumpkin was now the last remaining bastion of the entertainment industry. They are forced to live an almost self-sufficient life in the countryside deep in the mountains, where they cannot even get a decent signal on their cell phones. I, on the other hand, was blessed with modeling jobs. After that, I got a chance to appear in a movie as a main character. My husband is continuing his work while studying stage design. And now I have a new baby in my belly. I'm happy to knit little socks while thinking about what name I should give her.
Hey, when are you going to transfer the money? Send me 10,000 bucks. Right now. That's what my mother-in-law said on the phone. I'm in the middle of my husband's funeral. That's none of my business. She told me to transfer the money immediately. I ignored her and hung up the phone, and she came directly to me. But she was surprised. What the hell is this? My name is Stephanie. I am a 34-year-old office worker. I'm currently dating someone. His name is Alfred, and he is the same age as me. I met him through work. He works for a client of the company I worked for, and we often do business with each other. Basically, we had a serious business conversation. We were both serious about our work. But then he would unexpectedly throw in some of his jokes. It was funny, and we would laugh with each other. Of course, we were doing our jobs properly, but one of us makes a joke at the right moment, and the atmosphere instantly relaxes, and the deal proceeds in a rather good state. It was a drinking party that brought us close together. There was a time when the companies where my husband and I both work had a large-scale project. Of course, my husband and I participated in the project, as did many other employees. We all worked together to make the project a success, and a big party was held as part of the action. We exchanged personal contact information, and we started to keep in touch with each other, going out for drinks, going out on dates, and so on. We have been dating for about 2 years now, and we are still in love and have fun every day. We're both independent because we both focus on our jobs, and I think we have a good chemistry. Then one day, he proposed to me. I can't imagine my future with anyone but you. You're such a part of my life now. Will you marry me? Yes, I'd love to. And so we are married. I'm so happy that I was going to marry the man I love. After that, we went to meet each other's parents. And he looked a little unhappy. What's wrong? Did something happen? No. Actually, there's something I wanted to tell you. I've explained to you before that my parents are divorced, right? I've actually been sending money to my mom every month since I started working for the company. I see. Oh, yeah, about 1,000 a month. What? That much? Yeah. But of course I'm not going to bother you after we're married. Since we're going to live together as a couple, I thought I should let you know in advance. I see. He only briefly explained that his parents are divorced due to his mother's infidelity. His father took him in. Even so, he still saw his mother sometimes and kept in touch with her after he entered the workforce. His mother has asked him to send money to her because she is now single and has a hard time making ends meet. Even though his mother betrayed them, he stayed with her until he was in the 3rd grade of junior high school, and his mother used to cook and feed him every day, raising him with love and care. When I was playing softball, she always came to watch her team practice. She prepared orange juice for everyone and drove us to the games. My dad was too busy with work to spend time on those things, so I owe a lot to my mom. People might say that he's bad situation where he is being robbed, but still he was treated well by his mother in the past. He feels he owes his mother a debt of gratitude and wants to repay it. That's why he keeps sending money to her. Thank you for telling me in advance. I'll do what I can to help. Thank you, Stephanie. I was surprised by his story, but I still wanted to respect his wishes as much as I could. Fortunately, I also make a good amount of money. He says he won't bother me, but if it comes to it, I'm willing to pay for it. Then I went with him to his mother's house to tell her of our marriage. Alfred, it's been a long time. Hi, Mom. So, that's your fiancé. Nice to meet you. I'm Stephanie. Alfred is being very good to me. His mother was very nice. Alfred is finally getting married. I was worried because he never talked about it. Stephanie, thank you for marrying my son. Mom, don't make it sound like you were taking pity on me. Oh, because when I was your age, you were already in the 9th grade. That's a pretty late marriage for me. His mother had Alfred when she was 19, according to the story. She's 53 now, so she looks very young. Well, she seemed to spend a lot of money on beauty, so she looks young. But after I met his mother, I went to see his father. His father was a very serious and sincere man, and I thought that Alfred was like his father. After meeting with each other's parents, we started making preparations for the wedding. However, when I sent the wedding invitation to his mother, it came back circled as absent. Why aren't you gonna be there, Mom? He asked immediately on the phone. Because that man is coming too, right? I can't go. By that man, I mean his father. Well, they're divorced because of her infidelity. So it's natural that he is difficult to meet. I thought it was a little suspicious because she refused to attend the meeting for both of our families. In the end, no matter how much he tried to convince her, his mother didn't want to come to the wedding. Then he and I got married. It was a very happy and joyful wedding with many people celebrating. His mother did not come to the wedding in the end, but we received a congratulatory message. Then Alfred and I started living together. We worked together and shared the housework, and I think we have a good balance in our lives. He was raised by his father since high school, so he himself was often in charge of cooking. So he can cook well and has a lot of dishes he can make. His cooking is very good, and I think he can cook some dishes better than me. And we had a good time on holidays, going on a trip or drive. My husband continued to send money to my mother-in-law even after our marriage. Basically, the monthly remittance was about $1,000. But apparently, my mother-in-law had recently injured her back and became unable to work. Therefore, my husband received a call from her asking him to increase the amount of money he sends home. He was worried about my mother-in-law, so he decided to increase the remittance. Therefore, he increased it from $1,000 to $1,500 a month. My husband works for a large company, and he has a high income. However, it must be quite difficult for him to send $1,500 a month to his mother. I decided to pay more for our living expenses. I worked hard, and my income was high, so it was no problem for me. But my mother-in-law got carried away and asked him to send more money. It's a very hard life. I'm not working right now. You know that, right? I have to go to the hospital too. Maybe so, but I can't afford to send more money either. Are you saying you're abandoning your mother? No, that's not what I'm... Then send more money to me for my sake. My mother-in-law begged my husband repeatedly, and he ended up increasing her allowance to $2,000. It was okay to send her money up until then, but now I think she's asking too much. Well, he still owes his mother for raising him, and she said she had no one else to rely on. So my husband couldn't give up on my mother-in-law, although he was worried about it. So my husband worked hard at his job and got a promotion as a result. This has helped to raise her salary, and for the time being, life has not been so difficult. However, I thought that we would be able to afford it if we could reduce the amount of money we send home. So my husband and I went to my mother-in-law's house to ask her to reduce her allowance. Oh, Alfred and Stephanie, what's up? My mother-in-law greeted us with a smile. But when we went to talk to her about reducing her allowance, she immediately became grumpy. What? Why? Well, it turns out that $2,000 is a little too much, so... You don't care what happens to your mother? I knew you would take his side. I'm not taking his side or anything, you know. Then why don't you help me? We have our own life. We might have a baby. We want to save as much money we can for when that happens. Instead of something that you're unsure of, shouldn't you be helping people in need now instead? I'm in financial trouble. That's how my mother-in-law insisted. You said you have back pain. I think you can do at least some desk job. I already told you I can't work. So help me. That's how angry my mother-in-law is. My husband and I were both exhausted by the situation. Is there any way out of this? I decided to go to the bathroom for a change. It was then that I noticed that the door to the room next to the bathroom was slightly ajar. I glanced in, and there was something that surprised me. What is that? I glanced toward it. At least she didn't notice. I quietly went into the room and took pictures of what was inside. Then, I went to the bathroom and came back to the living room, pretending that nothing happened. In the end, our attempt to reduce her allowance failed because my mother-in-law did not approve of it. After we returned home, I showed the picture to my husband. Could this be my mom's room? Actually, it was just open when I went to the bathroom, and I took photos of some things from there. Would you look at this one? And this one. What? Aren't these all brand name stuff? That's right. and they're all new releases. So you're saying my mom buys a lot of brand name stuff? I guess so. My husband was red-faced and angry. I was sending money to mom because she was having a hard time making ends meet. I guess that means she's spending all this money I was sending her. Can't forgive her. I won't send money to her anymore. It's only natural that he would say that. My husband was sending money to my mother-in-law to protect her livelihood, not to allow her to live extravagantly. I agreed with him. Soon after that, he stopped sending money to her. Then, as expected, my husband received 2 phone calls from my mother-in-law. Hey, I haven't received this month's payment yet. What's going on? Mom, I won't send money anymore. What? What are you doing? I'm saying I can't do it anymore. If you don't like it, stop being extravagant and sell your brand name goods. My husband said and hung up. Then my mother-in-law came to our house. Sent me money. I only bought them because they happened to be on sale. There were many other brand name items. Anyway, I'm not sending you any more money. So please go home. My husband kicked her out without question. But after that, my mother-in-law kept coming back to ask for money. So we decided to move out. I can't trust her anymore. I didn't think she was that bad. She was so persistent that we hired a detective agency to investigate her. Then we found out a surprising fact. My husband was completely fed up with my mother-in-law. So we moved out of the house so that my mother-in-law would not assault us. Soon after that, my mother-in-law called me. My husband had already blocked her calls, so now she was coming to me. Then my husband and I came up with an idea. A few days later, I finally answered my mother-in-law's phone. Hey, when are you going to transfer the money? Do you know how many months it's been? 5 months. 5 months. How can you expect us to send you $2,000 a month for 5 months? Send me $10,000 quickly. I then told my mother-in-law. I'm in the middle of my husband's funeral. What? Funeral? Yes. My husband just recently passed away. Then my mother-in-law said something surprising. That's none of my business. What? Just transfer the money. Are you really saying that? Is money more important than your son's funeral? Of course. Money is more important. Even though you had an affair, he felt indebted to you for raising him, so he sent money to you even after he entered the workforce. He also told me about the time when he played softball. He said that you always drove the car and supported his team at practices and games. When I explained this, my mother-in-law snickered. He had it all wrong. I wasn't doing it for him. It was because the coach of the softball team at the time was a good-looking guy his age. He didn't know it, but the coach and I were having an affair. Oh no. I thought my mother-in-law was an arsehole. I don't care what you do, but can you please transfer the money to me as soon as possible? He was well paid and I'm sure he has a lot of money in his inheritance. Enough. We're in the middle of the funeral at a place called Madison Funeral Home. I will wire you the money. What? You don't have the authority to decide that. Just transfer the money. I ignored her and hung up. Then my mother-in-law came directly to me. Hey, I'm here because you didn't transfer the money. My mother-in-law came to me with a loud voice, and she was surprised with her eyes wide open. What? What does this mean? So you came. What? Afraid? And my mother-in-law looked around at the people there with a pale face. There were several people there, all of whom had been tricked by my mother-in-law into giving her money. I asked the detective agency to investigate, and they found out about that. And just recently, they had lost contact with my mother-in-law. And so, there was no way to get her to return the money. So my husband and I came up with a plan to call my mother-in-law here. I expected her to come to the funeral, but I didn't expect her to talk like that. As a result, my mother-in-law came, but the damage to my husband must have been immeasurable. However, my husband seemed to be rather relieved. I now understand that I was not important to my mother, so I'm going to stop caring about her too. I want you to give back the money you owe these people, and the money you took from us. That's impossible. Okay? Then we'll have to go to the police. The police? Yes, because what you're doing is stealing. Now you're moving in with some young guy and paying for him. That's what we found out. We can talk to that guy if you want. Don't bother Edward. I feel sorry for you. You can either go to the police or you can give the money back. Just make a choice. My mother-in-law slumped down on the floor, her face pale. She finally gave up and chose to return the money. We all went to my mother-in-law's house to prevent her from running away and retrieved all the brand name goods. We immediately sold them and turned them into money. My mother-in-law first used the money to pay back the people to whom she owed money. But it was still not enough to cover the money that my husband had been sending her, so he contacted a certain person. It was my mother-in-law's brother. Her brother runs the family's auto body shop. We explained the situation to him and asked him to put my mother-in-law to work. He had always been very fond of my husband, and he always did whatever my husband asked. And this time, my mother-in-law had done something terrible. So he said that he is responsible for punishing his sister and forced her to come out and help him with the family business. My mother-in-law tried to escape many times and moved into her young boyfriend's house. When my husband and my mother-in-law's brother went to talk to the guy named Edward, he immediately threw my mother-in-law's belongings out of the house, saying that he didn't want such a troublesome old woman. To me, she was just like a matron who gave me money. My mother-in-law was shocked to hear that from the guy to whom she had paid a lot of money. So my mother-in-law's brother took her out and put her to work to make sure she couldn't run away from home. In exchange of giving my mother-in-law food and shelter, she made sure that all the money she earned went to my husband. Things are going well for now, but my husband and I will continue to keep a close eye on my mother-in-law because she might do something wrong in the future. I will continue to be close to my husband and spend happy days as a married couple.
When I walked into the house, my jaw dropped. Where's all the furniture? Even that really expensive bed is gone. I've got a great taste, right? I turned pale seeing my mother-in-law Brenda's self-satisfied expression. Brenda, did you do this? Sure did. I thought it looked better in our place, so I had it moved over. After all, how does a part-timer like you get to live in such a swanky condo just because you're married to my son? You're here because of him. Step out of line and I'll make sure the two of you split up. Got it? I tried to hold back my rage as I said, Do you realize what you've done? What do you mean? This isn't my apartment, and that furniture wasn't mine. Wait, what? Nick and I had been an item for some time. From our college days, he'd shower me with gifts, not just on special days, but anytime he felt like it.
Just wanted to make you smile,
he'd say, giving me a shy grin. It was one of the things I loved about him. Post-graduation, we tied the knot. We were the first in our friend group to do so, and the celebration was epic. Truly felt like the peak of happiness. Both of us had steady jobs, but after the wedding, Nick proposed I leave mine.
I want to be the breadwinner. Just take care of the home and be there when I get back.
The idea might have been a bit traditional, but I wasn't opposed to it. So I gave up my job, focusing on homemaking and eagerly waiting his return each day. But even with a spotless home, I had a lot of free time. Our place was a modest rental. Nick, being accustomed to a lavish lifestyle, sometimes felt it was a bit tight, but he understood I wanted to save, especially in the beginning. I adored our quaint starter home, but then one evening he showed me a listing of a luxury condo in our area with rent nearly 10 times what we were paying. From the pictures, it looked worth the price, but with such a rent, we'd end up not having enough for a dinner like tonight.
Isn't this place awesome? We'd have a way better life there, right?
I see your point, but that rent's super high. I genuinely like where we are now.
This place is better suited as storage. It's way too tight for us, but don't sweat the cash, I've got it covered.
I thought our current place was way bigger than just a storage space, but I recognized we had different viewpoints on money ever since college. Seeing how much he wanted the change, I finally caved. Okay, if you're really set on it, let's do it. But I'd like to work part-time. I want to help out, at least a little. I promise I'll always be back in time to cook, and it'll help me stay busy. Sound good? Even considering his hefty paycheck, I wasn't sure about managing the increased rent. There had to be another income stream, but it still gave me jitters. After I got the green light from Nick to work part-time, I came home one day to find him wrapping up our rental agreement on the phone. Once all the I's were dotted and T's were crossed, we made our move at the end of that month. While we hauled over everything from our old place, a few rooms in our new home remained bare. At first, the steep rent had me doing a double take, but the sheer size and coziness of our new place soon had me daydreaming about our life there. Not long after we settled in, Brenda, Nick's out-of-state mom, decided to pay a visit. To be honest, I never warmed up to her. From our engagement days, she's been kind of frosty with me. Maybe she thought I was stealing her baby boy. It seemed like she had a master's degree in finding faults, and she didn't hold back in our new home either.
So, you got this swanky place and it's still not up to snuff. I understand you're used to smaller places, but my son deserves better. Can't you keep things neat?
She went full-on soap opera star, doing the dust check routine and even going through our fridge.
Nick mentioned your new part-time job, grinding all those hours for a mere $450. Instead of burning time, you could be primping up at a spa or something. You're strange.
Clearly, Nick got his penchant for splurging from her. I mean, sure, if I were loaded, I'd be all over spa days and shopping sprees. But I wanted to stand on my own 2 feet, not just rely on his bankroll. I felt splurging should come from my hard-earned cash. Trying to get that across to Brenda was like talking to a wall. I usually just responded to her with a tight-lipped smile. When I turned to Nick for a little backup, he just brushed it aside, taking his mom's side. The whole thing started eating at me. Brenda became a regular, showing off and constantly digging at me. She'd never been keen on our old place, but with this upgrade, she paraded around like she owned the place. I was getting tired of her drop-ins. When I subtly mentioned she might be overdoing her visits, she let loose.
I'm Nick's mom. He owns this place, so it's totally normal for me to be here. But you? Not so much. Have you seen your classy neighbor? Makes you look bad. Can't believe my son's stuck with you.
She kept it up till Nick walked in. Hey Nick, sorry, but I couldn't get dinner ready. Mind if you and your mom get something delivered? I need some air. Instead of understanding, he just snapped.
Really? What were you up to all day? Mom's just looking out for you. Try being a little more appreciative.
All I said was, I'm spending tonight elsewhere. There was a decent hotel close by that didn't break the bank. Even though I looked pretty drained, Nick didn't bat an eye, choosing instead to chat with his mom about what to get for the delivery. I just needed to breathe. Coming back the next day around lunch, the entrance was clear of shoes, both Nick's and Brenda's. Looked like she'd finally cleared out. I let out a sigh since I had been prepping myself for another round of her critiques. But heading to the bedroom, I was floored. Where the heck was our bed? My mind raced to a possible break-in, but everything else was in place. Who'd just swipe a fancy bed and nothing else? On a hunch, I called Brenda, wondering if she knew something. Without batting an eye, she copped to it.
So, problem? That bed was too high-end for someone like you. I did you a favor. It was in decent shape. I'll ship you my old one, a tad worn, but
more your speed. Her smirk was almost palpable over the phone, and that was the last straw for me. I replied to her snide remarks with a big smile. I don't need such trash. Why don't you get rid of it at yourself? And you just take things without saying sorry? She snapped back. Who do you think you are talking to me like that? People always say you act so stuck up. Is that why nobody likes you? I replied, say whatever you like, but I want the bed back. She quickly said, whatever you own, Nick does too, so I can use it unless he has an issue. I calmly corrected her. The bed isn't actually ours. She was clearly shocked. What are you talking about? I broke the news to Brenda. I'm leaving Nick. So, you finally get it. I've moved all my stuff to my new place. That bed's a rental. You rented such a fancy bed? You're something else, taking advantage of Nick. He picked out that bed, not me. He always had to have the best. I then gave her some insight into her son's reality. From his college days, Nick lived on borrowed cash. He might have acted rich, but he was just careless with money. Even though his parents were well off, his own salary barely covered our living expenses. He'd always been borrowing or gambling away money. And yet, he insisted on fancy weddings and luxurious apartments. The bed? He rented that too. Nick's always been obsessed with the idea of seeming rich. He wanted me to stay home just to keep up appearances. Remember when you mentioned the stylish lady next door? Nick told me I should act more like her so he doesn't lose face. He said it with the same smile he'd use when buying me gifts. That day, I decided enough was enough and contacted a lawyer for the divorce. Well, thanks for everything, Brenda. That bed wasn't cheap. The rental company will bill you. Brenda, in a panic, replied, This is your fault. You should have told me. Come back and deal with it. This isn't a request, it's an order. You're still his wife. Not for much longer. To me, you're practically a stranger now, and if you're planning to come over again, you might want to make it quick. Given Nick's debts, this plate might not be ours for long. She was so shocked she dropped the call. I didn't bother waiting, just blocked her number. Alrighty, that should clear the air before the divorce. With that, I left Nick's place. I later heard he had been evicted. He bragged about paying everything off with his huge salary, but it was bound to happen. He moved into a tiny apartment way smaller than our first place. All his friends who lent him money abandoned him, and he was drowning in debt. Brenda, for all her airs, ended up having to buy the bed she took since it was damaged. The price? A cool $6,700. Even she distanced herself from her own son once she found out about his lies. He had lied about working for a top-tier company with a high salary. He'd been sending his parents $2,000 every month, all borrowed or gambled money. Once Brenda found out, she recognized his pathological need to show off and distanced herself. I might have a pleasant chat with her now, but I sure don't want to hear that voice again. Last I heard, Nick's all alone, cut off by family and friends. As for me and my modest new place, I admire my tiny cactus by the window. Even if I'm just working part-time and funds are tight, I plan to work full-time soon and save up. I'm content with the simple things in life, like finding joy in the little cactus. After all the drama, I felt relieved with my decision. Tonight, I might treat myself to some takeout. It's moments like these that make everything worth it. I excitedly looked for some food options, feeling lighter than I had in a long time.